Hello there, bogey-proof golfer. We've got another installment of the What, Why, How for you this week with this beast. And if you don't know what this is, I'm not surprised. This is not a very standard piece of equipment in many of the gyms that you may have frequented, but this baby right here is what we call the Glute Ham or Glute Ham Machine. And so today we're going to talk about the exercise of doing a glute ham raise, as well as a couple of other ways to adapt it. But why would you do the glute ham raise? And main reason is it's a way to work on not just the hamstrings, that's why they call it the glute ham. Obviously works the glutes and the hams. Really it works the whole entire backside of the body, which in my opinion is one of the most underworked part of the body that most of us tend to do when we go into the gym and work on your standard workout routines. Typically we do a lot of pushing, we do a lot of maybe pressing, curling, pressing overhead, those kinds of things, lunges, squats, but we don't do a lot of hamstring specific and glute specific work unless you've been educated by some of the great professionals out there to really work on some of those things. In the world of golf, the reason that's important is because you're constantly in that posture of kind of a hip hinge where you're putting the hamstrings on a little bit of tension. We want to get the glutes working and get the glutes active in your swing and in your stance. We want to work on the posture, which is really from head to toe. So all of those things are stress to the back side of the body. So the back side of my body is really what's kind of holding me up in this position. So the glute ham is a great piece of equipment if you have access to it to really work on those things. And again, create a little bit of variety. The hamstrings are hard to work. There's only a few ways that you can do hamstring exercises, that being deadlifts, good mornings. If you have a hamstring curl machine, which some people are for, some people are against. I personally am for it because it's another way to work the hamstrings that is a little bit different. There's Swiss ball exercises, which we've shown you. But the glute ham provides its own challenges. It really allows you to strengthen while the hamstrings are lengthening, which is a little bit different too. So I'm going to show you kind of how, first of all, how to get on this thing. I know it looks kind of like a pommel horse or maybe even one of those bull riding pieces of equipment that you see at your Pabst Blue Ribbon bar. But getting on this thing is usually one of the hardest parts of the exercise for people. So you're going to climb onto this thing and hook your feet in to the foot position here. So there's pads that are actually going to hold the back of my calves in place here. So it's going to look like I'm falling all the way down, and I know I'm reaching kind of the top of the scene here. Hopefully you can see all of this. But the goal here is for me to basically let myself fall, keeping a nice straight posture here. All of my motion is at first going to be coming from my knees, which is really creating a lot of stress on my hamstring. So I've got my feet anchored into the post here. I'm going to slowly lower myself down, and then I'm going to let my hips start to hinge where now my upper body goes down. And then I'm going to pull myself all the way back up. Now, I'll be the first to say that this exercise is not for everyone. This is one that you would eventually work your way into when you know that your hamstrings are strong, you know your hips are strong. But we wanted to give you, the introduction to the glute ham machine if you have never seen it before. So again, I'm going to go down nice and slow, nice and controlled, and then I'm going to pull myself back up with a little bit of speed there. So as I'm going down, my hamstrings are lengthening but staying controlled, a lot of tension on them, and now I'm going to squeeze and pull all the way back up. Now, if you're not ready to do the up portion, you can just do kind of a modified version where you're going all the way down, and then you'll see I'm going to use my hands to help myself back up. This is a great way to get somebody that's maybe afraid of falling on their face, which won't happen, but everybody feels like they're going to fall and hit the floor. But to do this, you're just going to go down nice and slow, all the way down, and then I'm going to come up to a back extension and then use my hands to get myself all the way back up to the top. So again, nice and slow on the way down, We'll work on a little back extension. Use the hands. Bring yourself back up. Now, you saw the little back extension motion there. That's another great way. Actually, that's probably the first place that I would start if I'm putting somebody on this machine. You may also have a back extension machine at your gym that's a little bit more of an angled piece of equipment that isn't nearly as bulky looking as this thing, but it's kind of the same thing as far as for the hinging, for the back extension. So if I get somebody on here and I'm just going to do the back extension, just kind of getting them used to this piece of equipment, they're going to start out in a nice straight line. The pads will be just at the top of their thighs, so it'll give them enough motion or enough space where they can hinge without their belly bouncing into these pads. So right here, again, I got my feet locked. I'm going to start in a nice straight position. I'm going to go down nice and slow, and then I'm just going to pull myself right back up to the top. Come back down, and again, pull right back up to the top. Notice how straight of a line my body is in that position. Where I see most people go wrong on this exercise is they're trying to use too much of their back to do the strength part of this exercise instead of their legs. This should be more of a butt exercise where your trunk and your back are pretty much staying in the same spot. So this is all staying still. I'm actually using my butt, even my hamstrings, to help pull myself up. So when I'm in that straight out position, or actually when I'm in that down position, what I think about is taking my thighs and pushing them into the pad as hard as I possibly can and squeezing my butt as hard as I can squeeze. So when I'm down here, I'm thinking of taking my thighs and pushing into this pad, squeezing my butt here, and that's going to pull me up into a nice straight line. If I think about my back and using my back, you're going to see people arching this way, and they'll come up even higher than their hips. And that's when you put a lot of undue stress on the back. So I've seen people grab 45-pound weights and they just start cranking at their lower spine, and it makes me cringe every time I watch it. And I've actually had to interject at one point or another. But what you want is mainly to work on the hips, squeeze the butt, push into the pad, create that plank style position when you get to the top, and then you know that you're working the glutes, the hamstrings, you're even working the back properly, but you're just not going to put that extra stress on your spine. All right, I know that was a lot of information all in one take here, but if you see this machine, it's called the Glute Ham. If you have a professional that you're working with, they can walk you through how to properly use this. If you've been using this already, I want you to make sure that you're doing it the way that we talked about here in order to get the best use of the piece of equipment, but also to make sure that you're not going to hurt yourself, hurt your back, hurt your glutes, hurt your hamstrings, or pull anything, all of those good things. All right, I thank you for joining us here on the What, Why, How segment again at 18 Strong. Be sure to go to the podcast, subscribe, and listen to the episodes we have over there with some great coaches, golfers, trainers, everybody from all walks of life that are working with some of the best in the world or are the best in the world at what they do to help you get better at your golf game, but also help you do this stuff better, get your body in shape so you can play better golf. All right, train hard, practice smart, play better golf.